Hi there traders, this is Steve Miley, the market chartist for FX Explained and our regular weekly Macro Watch update, week commencing 17th of August 2020. We're going to look at the macroeconomic and geopolitical developments over the past week first of all. And what we've really seen is global financial markets stay in their risk on mode in here. And that has been characterized by macroeconomic data continuing to stay solid, stay positive overall across the globe in here over the past week. We did have retail sales data from the US slightly disappointing on Friday, but generally throughout the week, data from Europe, UK, from Asia, from the US has continued to signal a more positive tone, in many instances beating expectations. But markets are still caught between this more positive, improving economic data and recovery in a post-COVID-19 world, and then also the ongoing COVID-19 concerns, particularly in the US, with those US states still recording high numbers of cases, hospitalizations and deaths. Although saying that, in some places we are seeing slight improvements in the data in some of the states that are seeing more significant COVID-19 high numbers. However, the global concerns remain too. We now have significant outbreaks in Greece, France and Spain within Europe. And then in Australia, in Victoria State, we still have that significant higher rates of cases and deaths. The RBNZ this week, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, they increased the amount of QE more than the market had expected and also hinted at potential for negative interest rates. And also then US lawmakers remain in an impasse on coronavirus relief packages in here. That's an issue for the risk-on environment that we've been talking about here. And then also over the weekend, we were due to have US-Sino, US-China trade talks in here about the trade agreement reached at the beginning of this year. And those have been postponed indefinitely. So let's take a look at the global financial market developments, how it's really all of this has impacted markets over the past week. Well, we're seeing European equity indices actually show a more positive tone, rebounding, having had that sell-off at the end of July, here highlighted by the DAX, a more positive tone for the European equity averages. We've seen the daily S&P 500 here poised at its all-time record high from there back in February, and US equity indices having a resilient, though more kind of a consolidation tone over the past week, but poised here with the S&P about to make potentially a more bullish signal above that peak from earlier this year. On the bond side in here, US Treasury yields have backed away from the very low yields we saw at the beginning of August, and then we've had a move to higher yields, and that's potentially reflected and echoed the more positive risk-on theme across global asset classes. The US dollar remains weak, having had a rebound the prior week, setting back last week in here. So US dollar vulnerability coming back through. But we did see the New Zealand dollar lower in here after that more dovish tone for the from the RBNZ. Gold has had a significant pullback from a multi-year high in here, a significant sell-off over the past week with a one-day decline, its biggest one-day decline for over 7 years in here. And that primarily being driven in here by more of that shift by the US dollar to slightly more positive at one point in here, but then with the US dollar slightly now going back weaker, the gold is trying to now rebound. And oil staying very cautious, a more positive underlying tone, trying to grind higher in here, but unable to really break out from the recent consolidation sideways range. So now let's take a look at the week ahead, commencing the 17th of August 2020. Well, we have the central banks. It's a couple of central banks in play. Well, their meeting minutes are being released this week. The Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, on Tuesday, and then the FOMC meeting minutes from the Fed on Wednesday. We're also going to have to monitor the US and global COVID-19 cases in here, still very much in focus. Cases, number of deaths and hospitalizations. And looking at the actual macroeconomic data events in here, we have a Eurogroup meeting on Monday, those RBA meeting minutes Tuesday, UK and Canadian CPI data, inflation data on Wednesday, those FOMC meeting minutes also late Wednesday. The weekly jobless claims number from the US on Thursday, and Friday brings UK retail sales, and then important PMI data from the global flash PMI data, and also the ISM Institute of Supply Management US PMI data on Friday. I'm going to wish you all a great trading week, and please do stay safe out there. So traders, don't forget to catch us on the next FX Explained Macro Watch and all the great content on fxexplained.co.uk.